So today I want to share with you some of those things that I really like in the Charlottesville area. And I also want to balance it out by telling you about the things that I don't like. You may find if you visit here that you have your own opinion about things. And if that's the case, put your questions and comments down below. I'll be happy to read them over. I want to share with you the things that I don't like about living in the Charlottesville area. So here we go. I'm going to start off with the pros, the things that really make this a worthwhile place to be. And then I'll follow that up with the cons. So hopefully you get a balanced view, and this will help you with your decision if you're thinking about relocating to the Charlottesville, Virginia area. The first thing I really like about living in this area is we have 4 honest seasons throughout the year. Each one is about the same length, and it's very temperate, moderate climate. We don't get bone-chilling cold in the wintertime, although it does get cold enough that it will snow sometimes and the snow will stick. But for the most part, we go between the upper 90s down to the mid-20s. And springtime and fall are absolutely wonderful with very moderate temperatures. I think one of the reasons for this is we're protected by 2 mountain ranges. The Blue Ridge Mountains, and just to the west of that, the Appalachian Mountains. They run from southwest to northeast, which is pretty much the direction of the prevailing winds as they come from the Midwest. So a lot of the weather that starts out there will hit these mountain ranges, and it will just travel up and get deflected away from us. Sometimes stuff will come over the mountains for sure, but the power is diminished and we get the gentle rains, we get the light snowfall, if we get that at all. This makes for good weather and seasons all year round. The other thing I like about this area is it's green. When I have traveled somewhere and I'm flying back, I know I'm in Virginia, especially Central Virginia, because I look down and I can see all this greenery, and it tells me I'm close to home. People who don't live here, they come and they remark on how green it is in Virginia. It's because we have a good growing season. We have lots of trees here native to the area. And of course, we have lots of farms. So you're going to see hay fields, you're going to see soybean, you're going to see corn, you're going to see whatever the farmers are growing in those fields or in the pasture land where the livestock are grazing. Speaking of farms and what grows in the area, we have a lot of vineyards. Thomas Jefferson started this off back in his time at Monticello by growing wine-type grapes that he had imported from Europe. And there's been a resurgence of this in like the last 30 years or so. Virginia now sports over 400 separate wineries throughout the Commonwealth. And in the Central Virginia area, we have a large number. They're tourist destinations, and they're also good if you live here, if you'd like to get out, if you enjoy a glass of wine, like to sample the wares. It's very enjoyable to get out. There's a lot of variety. If you like your spirits, you have your choice of wineries, breweries, or distilleries. Many of these places have their own tasting rooms so you can sample their wares. I'd have to say that Virginia can hold its head up very highly. We have a number of distilleries too, not nearly as many as the breweries or the wineries, but this is also a craft industry that's been growing in the Central Virginia area. If you like your outdoor pursuits, we have plenty of hiking trails in the area. There's the Appalachian Trail close by, and a lot of the larger subdivisions will have hiking trails throughout because they know that their residents are active type people, and there's plenty of places to go hiking. Bicycling as well. We have a lot of biking trails, and in Virginia, I know that a lot of the old railroad beds have been abandoned and converted into bike trails, so you can have that experience, which is really good. And if you get out on the roads, being out in a biking group is very enjoyable. We also have the Blue Ridge Parkway if you like driving. The Fall Foliage Tour, which is somewhere from the end of September through the month of October. It's absolutely spectacular as all that green color I told you about earlier, the leaves change and you have so many vibrant colors to enjoy while driving up and down the Blue Ridge Parkway. If you really like the challenge of long distance hiking, we have the Appalachian Trail as well, very close by. Central Virginia has done a really good job of combining tourism with history. We have many historical locations like Monticello, the home of Thomas Jefferson, and Montpelier, the home of James Madison, located in Orange County. There were 8 presidents that came from Virginia, a lot of them in the early days of the nation, and their homes have been turned into places that you can go visit. Now I know if you live here, you tend not to go see these places unless you have someone visiting from outside. in which case you really get to enjoy what's there and really come to appreciate the history of this area. If you happen to be in the city of Charlottesville, you have to visit the downtown mall. This is a walking mall. There's very little traffic that crosses it, and it's very well controlled, so this is a very safe place to walk up and down. What's there? A lot of restaurants, places with tables outside where you can dine in or out, a lot of retail boutiques, places where you can shop and enjoy. There's the Violet Crown movie theater. And at the other end of the mall, we've got the Outdoor Pavilion, which hosts Fridays after 5 and features lots of live acts, bands, music. It's a wonderful thing in the summertime especially. I enjoy going there just to people watch and to meet up with friends. If eating out is your thing, we have a plethora of restaurants, not only on the downtown mall, but all throughout the city of Charlottesville, and even in Albemarle County and in the outlying areas. You'll find wonderful places to eat, to dine, to take some family and friends, some company, and have a unique experience in a lot of these places. Charlottesville is blessed with an airport. I know there's some people who don't like it because it's a small one, but I do like this for it. It's located just a few minutes north of the city. It's easy to get to. There's plenty of parking. The parking is inexpensive. You can get in and out of the terminal very quickly. You're not dealing with lots of traffic to get in and out. I've frequently gone from parking my car to getting on the plane in like 10 or 15 minutes. The people are friendly, and it's easy to make connections to the larger airports where once you land there, you're already inside the terminal and don't have to deal with all those things I mentioned earlier. Finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that we've got two great hospital systems, UVA Hospital and Martha Jefferson Hospital. They have their own primary care facilities throughout the area, so getting access to good health care is not a problem. And if you're moving to the area and need to be within so many minutes of a hospital, this is easy enough to do because traffic is not so much of a problem. You can be quite a ways out, 20, 25 miles away from the city where the hospitals are, and still get to them within 30 to 40 minutes. Okay, those are the good things. Let me tell you about some of the things I don't like. And this first one, I just want to get it out of the way. This was a single event that happened in 2017, and you still hear about it or read about it in the news from time to time. It still comes up, and that was the Unite the Right rally. This was a singular event, a very unusual thing. This is not what Charlottesville is about, because these were people who came in from outside because they saw an opportunity to hold protest and to riot. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about that. I will say, though, that it has not happened since, and we're not known as a hotbed of extremism or political activism. That's not Charlottesville. So whatever you may have heard about that was 6 years ago, hasn't happened since. Thank goodness. Now, Charlottesville is a city of some 50,000 people. We have the University of Virginia. We do have rush hour. Route 29, which is the main route going north to south, you will run into rush hour on the north end of the city because a lot of people live up that way, or they get to work coming down the 29 corridor. And you can occasionally run into some stop and go traffic there. Route 29 also runs south of the city, but before you get into Charlottesville, Route 29 will intersect with Interstate 64, which runs east-west and provides other access within the city. So the traffic is not as bad on the south side. And I will say this, other than after work, the rush hour time, 29 is really not that bad and traffic does move well on it. The other route, which gets a lot of traffic because it runs east-west and it parallels the interstate, is US Route 250, especially coming across Pantops Mountain on the east side of town. It's just a lot of traffic that comes from that direction. And you can have backups and slowdowns as you cross Pantops Mountain going into Charlottesville at almost any time of the day, but especially at rush hour. Now, one of the things VDOT did, which I really, really appreciate, is they installed what's called a diverted diamond interchange, which, I don't know, the best way I can show it is the lanes cross on both ends of the interchange. This is where 250 intersects with Interstate 64, and the diverted diamond interchange basically doubles the speed at which you can get through those intersections because it eliminates left turn traffic lights. If you have to make a left turn to get onto the interstate, you're going down the road and you just peel off one direction or the other. So that has helped quite a bit. You'll still have some traffic backup, especially as you come into the city. But again, 5 to 10 minutes of that and you're out of it. Another area, and this is an occasional thing, but a lot of people will live west of Charlottesville, like say in the valley, the Waynesboro area, and because it's cheaper there, and then they'll drive into work by coming into town on Interstate 64. To do so, they have to cross Afton Mountain, which has got some elevation to it, and in the wintertime it can be beset by lots of thick fog. For this reason, the highway department has put lights embedded in the edges of the pavement so you can see where the road is. But I think there have been about 3 occasions that I recall where there have been multi-car pileups and as many as 40 cars would be involved. So if you're going to live in the Waynesboro area or anywhere in the valley and commute into Charlottesville on 64, be aware that there can be fog on the mountain and it can be a very hazardous condition. One way that people get around that is, since US Route 250 parallels Interstate 64, and coming across Afton Mountain, it's at a lower elevation, it's less susceptible to that fog. Not a whole lot of people know about that, but it's a good way around that problem. So that's a problem in the wintertime on Afton Mountain. Now let's go 180 days later in the middle of the summer. Again, this is something that people will say, oh my gosh, this is terrible, I can't wait for wintertime. That's when it gets really hot and humid in the summertime, so you could have what I call 90 and 90. 90 degrees and 90% humidity. Fortunately, this doesn't last more than about 2 to 4 weeks. So again, like I said, we have honest to goodness seasons here, and the weather patterns can change. If you get a thunderstorm in the middle of the afternoon, it'll cool things down. That helps a lot. We don't always get them every day when we have high heat and humidity, but when you get about a 15 to 20 degree temperature relief, even though the humidity's up, it's not as onerous. Now, if you like water sports, the nearest large lake is Lake Anna over in Louisa County, and it's about 30 to 45 minutes east of Charlottesville. So it's a bit of a hike to get there. Lake Anna, which supplies cooling for the North Anna Nuclear Power Station, is 22 miles long. There are plenty of parks and public access for boats to go in and out. So if you like skiing, boating, swimming, there's plenty of that there. Closer into Charlottesville, there's the Ravenna Reservoir, which supplies water for the city. That is much more restricted in terms of what you can put on there, but if you like to kayak or paddle a canoe or something like that, you can do that. You can also fish there. And we also have the James River, which runs through Scottsville and boasts the James River Rafting Company. So if you like to get out on the water and move from one place to another, they will put you in at one spot and pick you up lower down. The final con, and this is a big one for this area, is the cost of housing in the greater Charlottesville area is higher than the rest of the country. Some people will say much, much higher. I've got an earlier video which talks about the cost of living in Charlottesville and gives some of the median prices. The thing about this is that there is some pricing variability, and if you have to work in or near Charlottesville but are willing to commute, you can get lower house prices further out. As I mentioned earlier, there are people who live over in the valley in the Waynesboro area. They're getting some really good home prices compared to the Charlottesville area. But again, they trade that for a commute, so people will drive as much as 45 minutes to get to work, but they're paying maybe $100,000 less for a house. And there you have it. Those are my thoughts about what I like and what I don't like about living in this area. Like I said, I've been here most of my life. Some things I probably don't even think about, but if you're thinking of relocating to this area and you have some questions about what it might be like to live here, put your questions in the comments below. I'll be happy to get back to you. And thanks for listening. Good to have you.